Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the ESO headquarters at PAX 2016. Our next panel is for all you PvPers out there. It's the Alliance War Roundtable. So if you live and breathe Cyrodiil and the Imperial City, stick around because this one's for you, and we're going to be taking a lot of your questions. So we have with us lead PvP designer Brian Wheeler, the man behind the PvP, and creative director Rich Lambert.
Hey.
He does PvP too, we promise.
He does.
Not very well.
Well, you'll get there.
All right, guys, you want to take it away?
Sure. So this is the Alliance War Roundtable. And what we're talking about today is the fact that, first off, an Imperial City was a great addition, but still with Cyrodiil itself, when we set out to build this, it was going to be a sandbox for the players. We wanted you to go out there, kill each other, take keeps, use siege weaponry, give you the tools to fight each other and things to fight over. And we believe we've accomplished that pretty well. And again, with the addition of Imperial City, that helped aid that even further, giving people some small-scale things to fight over and giving that also some meaning. So overall, we're pretty pleased with how Cyrodiil has worked out so far, but that doesn't mean we're finished. That's kind of why we're having this roundtable to talk about where it's been and where we're going. One of the biggest things to talk about, obviously, is performance. That has been something we've been working on hardcore for a long time now. There have been lots of performance changes on the back end of how the server functions, handling combat mechanics, how the server handles various messaging from the client to the server and back. We've been doing some ability modifications, but we're still going to be working on it. We're not done with that. There's some big changes we're working on later to help get the client better next.
Yeah, like the server, we've seen a marked improvement in the server performance. You know, the lag has started to go down, the server lag specifically. Oh, damn it. I say specifically, and then I hear Mike do it. And then just comes there. He's standing up there.
Specifically standing up.
So server lag is something we've been looking at really hard. You know, trying to improve that, get that, you know, especially in prime time. We've seen server frames drop significantly, which means everybody's ping stays at a good low rate, which is really, really important. You know, running around in True Flame and Hatteras, you know, prime time, we used to see really big spikes where you'd have 3 or 4 seconds of input lag.
Yeah, you'd be pressing the button and nothing would happen.
You don't see that anymore. You might get the occasional spike, but, you know, that's, you know, Brian and Eric and Ed, who's our, you know, lead server engineer, putting all that effort in to improve the server frames. And we're getting closer. I think there's still a couple things.
There's still
that we're
some
working
things
on.
coming. Yep, there's some fixes.
But we're also now starting to shift our focus to client performance, and that's the big one, right? Where you know you run into a group of 50 people, and then your frames kind of start to drop. So that's one of the things we're looking at now, specifically on. Oh, damn it! Looking at you know, how the character pipeline is rendered and things like that. So those are the next big things on our list.
Yeah, and when your personal frames are kind of down, and your frame rate for your connection to the server is also going to be down because your computer is kind of hitching trying to catch up to the server. So we know that's an issue and we want to fix that. But coming up in Tamriel, there are some pretty big changes coming for Cyrodiil itself. First off, it's going to be CP 160. Right now it's 140. Yay! That's a big change, which means the guards are going to be tougher. It means the monsters will give more experience when you kill them. That's all good all around. The big one that people have been asking for a while is being able to respawn and teleport out of outposts. That's a big one. That's going to be happening in Tamriel as well. Also, one of the bigger tactics that we've seen out there is people come in, they bust down the outer wall, they go to the side, and they break down the inner wall of a keep. To counter that, we're going to have the ballistas being able to shoot down at a tighter angle so they can actually shoot those guys that are sort of in that corner bastion on the wall.
Yeah, a lot of players would run right up to the edge of the wall and kind of hug the wall and hide there because they knew they were mostly safe. They might get hit with oil. Or they would get hit from other players, but they didn't have to worry about siege. And so part of this change is to make it so that siege can be a little bit more deadly, and it's a little bit easier to kind of push back the defense.
Yeah, and the offense. The radius of where you can deploy those ballistas has been tightened, so you can actually deploy them in between the wall crenellations. Because before you can't do that, you have to back up and it arcs over and you completely miss the guys. And to go with that, trying to make the door a little bit more of an interesting target, we've doubled the ram damage. I was going to say ramage. The ram damage. No, but yeah, that has been upped significantly. It's been doubled. So we're hoping that the door becomes a tastier target for people to attack. These aren't huge changes that we think are going to affect how people attack heaps, but we hope these nudge people towards trying different strategies at least.
Using a ram is dangerous.
It is.
You get oil dropped on you and you're screwed.
That's why you have Sea Shield. And that's why they have negate, and go back on that. This is a pretty big change.
We see this all over the floor.
Yeah, so
big one.
the tower doors, we're removing them. For a long time, Finnegan's over there going, oh my God, yeah. There's been a lot of questions on the forums, why are we doing this? And the biggest thing we want to enforce in Cyrodiil is that it's player versus player, not player versus a mechanic, to get an advantage. Right. So,
which is what tower farming
was that. In case anybody's new to what that means, you go to a tower, you take it, you go inside the tower, and there's a door right now that they can hide behind. If the alliance that used to own it or another alliance comes and takes it, they can't really get you kicked out of that location because they have to go through that tower door, and there's a split second or two going through that tower door where you're loading, and that force that just took the tower over before you is inside the bottom floor, and they murder you up like crazy. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't think about this lightly because we know that players can use abilities to hold a bottleneck. We've seen this on...
Which is fine.
Yeah,
that's
like on Nickel.
Want.
Right.
Yeah.
We want you to use abilities to block them. And there are several bottlenecks within a tower where they can use all their abilities to do this. Yep. We're going to see how this plays out on live, and hopefully it's going to be a change for the better.
We think it's going to be
good. Change, yes, yeah. It gets rid of this possibility of, we're just using this cheesy door mechanic. We would rather have you fight each other than depending upon a load screen or a hitch or something like that. A bigger change, which is going to change the market on live for the next probably 3-4 weeks, is that the Imperial City tooth doors, the pieces to get into those doors, you can use them on any door.
Yeah, key fragment is now a key fragment, which is a big change. And that works in the Imperial City dungeons as well.
Mm-hmm. So if you have 150 bone shards, monstrous teeth, you can then go into White Gold Tower and the prison and then go inside those doors as well and get access to that gear. That's going to make it so I think the market for monstrous teeth is going to come down. Because they're usually, 1,000 a piece.
It's going to be easier to get some of the rare things.
You can get the gear you want a little bit easier now. There's major adjustments to the stairwell that's around Ayleswell. That thing used to come straight out, coming down from, I believe, the farm. And you could jump from that onto the corner build out using Dragon Leap. And we're doing our best to cut down on the ability to hop into a keep before we want you to actually get inside there. So around Ayleswell, there's been some changes. That's going to be the most dramatic. We've done some minor changes at various towers and resources as well, but that's going to be the biggest change where that stairwell that used to go straight, you now need a 90-degree.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the keep walls are there for
a reason,
purpose, right?
Yes.
You have to siege the keep to take the keep. We don't want you to cheese it by jumping from a hill onto the edge of the keep and then get down or inside and things like that. So we're actively trying very hard to fix all of those loopholes that creative players
have gotten. And the mile gates at Ash and Chalman, we've changed those back to the way they used to be. We've heard the complaints about going through the rickety ladders that go all the way up are a pain in the butt. And while the top level fighting was fun, we found that the complaints about the lower level was far outweighed the bonus of fighting on the roof. There's also some tactics we've seen out there that we are always adjusting. We talk with Eric and the combat team about, obviously all forms of PvP, 1vx, group versus group, large group, small group, Imperial City versus Cyrodiil. So we're always listening, always out there, looking at what you're talking about, which kind of leads us to some other things to bring about tactics we've heard.
Tips and tricks and tactics and things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
First off, Rich is learning the joy of Impenetrable.
It is so good.
Yeah, if you're serious about it.
Against Fangrush earlier in the duels, but
sorry. Yeah, if you're new to PvP, get Impen. Seriously, get at least 4 pieces of Impenetrable. It cuts down on the crit damage you take. Your
survivability goes through the roof, which is what you need when you're a newer player trying to learn.
Yeah, because you're not nailing down what sets you have yet, and at least you can get a crafter to make you some in-pen stuff, which is very important. Know the campaign you're in is pretty important as well, because there's a dramatic difference from, let's say, Azura's Star to Hatteras.
Yeah, just managing resources is probably the thing that I see the most in watching a really good player and a player that's maybe newer, is they don't understand how to manage those resources. And the really good players are really freaking good at managing resources.
If you're new into Cyrodiil and you're looking for an easy way to sort of rank up, one of the things you can do, besides the starter quest, which gives you a whole rank in and of itself, is run around and heal your friends. They'll love you for healing them, but also you get AP for healing them if they've killed people.
Yeah, that pocket healer is amazing.
Yeah, you've done that a bunch.
Oh,
but you also surf in other methods of doing the arrow barrage and various...
The Zerg surfing, yes.
We said the Z word, oh god. The Z word.
It's an effective way to, participate in the combat and play. You find,
Mm-hmm.
two big groups that are going along, and you just kind of surf the edges and pick off the people that overextend and whatnot, and it works fine.
I mean, speaking of solo play, another thing you can do is hang out at the end of a teleportation chain and pick off the guys that are leaving the keep solo. I'm not saying I have.
You're going to gank them?
It's killing them. It's PvP. They're not fighting another monster and halfway dead in Imperial City, and you kill them. That's an effective gank. But yeah, hang out at the end of a teleport chain and then pick them off as they leave.
Sure.
That's a completely legitimate tactic if you're a solo player looking for something to do. You can always pick a fight. You can go to a location, drop down some siege, light up a keep, light up a tower, and the people will come out. They'll come out looking for you, look what's going on, and pick them off. Actually, you can lead the siege weapon up, watch them come up and try to...
And then gank them.
And then kill them, yeah. You love that word, gank.
It's great.
Well, because you do that in Imperial City.
Well, to the extent I can.
Yeah, it's true. Some more things to kind of learn weird abbreviations. People say Burk or BRK. It's Blue Road Keep. You'll hear
blinkers.
You'll start to learn these things as you go around. One of the other things to keep in mind is that the different territories call the keeps different things. One's a fort, one's a castle, one's a keep. And that is persistent in each of the territories. So when you hear that, it's an Aldmeri territory, go to the castles. Let's see. Alessia Bridge, it's always busy. There's always a fight there. You can pick a fight there if you want. Sort of go, set up siege weaponry, fire it.
Yep.
They'll get you. And hold block.
Block is an amazing tool in PvP. Amazing tool.
A lot of people, you'll see people that know, they're charging at me hold block, or they're sitting on a flag. They're just standing there. 9 times out of 10, if there's like 4 or 5 of you, and somebody just dies real quick, you're like, they were not expecting a focused aim shot, and they got hit.
Yeah.
So that happens.
I mean, there's also other things too. Like a lot of people underutilize the Mages Guild skill line in PvP. Mage Light is an amazing tool, especially the what's the morph?
The other morph where
the PvP morph, where when you have it slotted, you take 50% less damage from stealth attacks.
Right.
If you're getting ganked by the stealthy Nightblades or whomever, pop that on your bar, and the Nightblades just don't know what to do when they try to stealth away and run away, and you're like, nope, you're not going anywhere. I'm going to get you, right? So.
Yeah, that brings up a good point about don't sleep on those guilds, because the Fighters Guild has a very good ability that everybody talks about as a meme, the Dawnbreaker.
The Dawnbreaker.
But I mean, people use Dawnbreaker left and right. Don't sleep on Fighters Guild. It's good.
Yep.
And actually, and Undaunted as well, one of the passives there that gives you an extra benefit for the different types of armor that you're wearing. Don't sleep on Undaunted either. Right. So as a PvPer, don't just focus on getting the PvP skills. Play the whole game. But we hear the reverse, where people are running dungeons and they're like, I need to get Vigor.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, Vigor was a big tool.
Yes, it is.
Big tool for stamina users.
So other tips, don't be this person who is wielding one sword and nothing in their other hand. Don't be that person. But in general, a lot of the fighting we've seen in Imperial City out in Cyrodiil has been a lot of fun. One of the questions we get a lot of is how come there's just one flag in Imperial City districts? The main reason we did just one flag was we saw the benefit of having a solo player being able to flip a district. And if you had several flags, sort of like what we're seeing in the towns, a solo player has a very difficult time flipping a district. If there were maybe 4 or 5 of you in a group, you could split up, but then you're just splitting yourselves up to be taken out by more players than yourself. So I know that there's arguments about, well, it's just favoring large numbers with a single flag. We actually believe the opposite, that it favors a small group because that small group can make a big difference by capturing a single flag and flipping an entire district.
Right.
I know personally myself, I've done that in Imperial City, and it calls out a fight, and then you go in the back and you squat, waiting for people to take it over. If you see just one person coming to take it because they can, you can then pick a fight, which is awesome. But if you see 3 or 4 people and you're a solo player, unless you're Fang Rush or Cypher, or King Richard, or Mike, you can go out there and get it. So we know that that's a big discussion on the forums, and that's our reasoning behind single flags in the districts, because we wanted to encourage small group play, and I know that there's large groups out there that can just go from flag to flag to flag.
Yep.
If there were 3 flags per district, that's what they would do. Just mob up, and mob up. We've seen that activity. We know that's what happens. So we're trying to do our best to watch it and make adjustments as necessary. Short of that, though, are there any questions from the crowd here at PAX or via Twitch? And Mike is turning on the mic.
Yes.
Except
It's not.
talking to the mic.
Hey, guys, behind us. Hey, everybody back there that controls sound.
Hey, all right. Hey. Awesome. So if there's any questions, I have the mic to walk around and
Mike has a mic.
I have mic.
And Jess also has a
Mic
microphone
on the
from
mic.
Twitch.
Yeah,
Wheels on the heels.
I can kick things off from Twitch because there's definitely a lot of questions.
Sure.
So Gino Bohm has a lot of questions.
Okay.
You guys know him. They may be more for the combat team, but I told him I would ask a few of them, and you guys can let us know. So why are we so fond of snares? Snares is something that some players do find annoying, and he mentioned that he feels it's further pushing stamina to the top of the food chain.
So snare is an interesting tool in that it allows the melee players to kind of be able to close the gaps a little easier. Range players have it, I don't want to say really easy, but
They have the
easier
advantage
than
of
melee
range.
players because they can just plink away from 28 meters. And a melee person can't. And so they need a tool to kind of help close the gaps. We have gap closers, but snares is also an important part of that tool set. We've made some fixes to some abilities. I know there's a bombard thing. We fixed that. But there's also other tools to combat snares. You can pop an immovable potion.
Yep.
Away you go. You're immune to snares for a while. So there's lots of different tools, and we like that kind of interplay of range versus melee and how you do that dance.
Yeah, the other big reason is snares are more abundant than stuns, knockbacks,
Stuns suck.
and hard seat. Yes, stuns. Nobody likes being incapacitated entirely. So that's why we're more in favor of snares, because you can at least still fight back somehow, versus being knocked back, stunned, or knocked down when you literally can't do anything.
Yeah, taking control away from the player is, in general, bad.
Right. Are there more questions coming?
Jess is typing.
Jess is typing.
Yes. We have
Furiously.
questions from chat. It's probably going to be easier if I just sit here. So this is from Lone Pirate. Can we get costumes and NPC guard recognition for reaching the high PvP ranks?
That would be nice. Get some costumes for getting Grand Warlord.
I mean, we have a title.
We do have a title. That's
We have
true.
a title now, so
But costumes and
Maybe.
we don't want to give a combat bonus. There has been a request on the forums for combat bonuses for various ranks as you go up. You get skill points, but
yeah, I mean, it's things we can look into.
right. That is definitely something we can possibly add.
Any questions from the live audience?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's
afraid-
PvP,
they're
but we're
afraid to
nice.
ask.
We swear we're nice.
This is a super important one from Wohler, who is part of
Oh.
a guild who's going to be in one of our dungeon
That
runs
nub
later.
cake. Mike's shaking his head going, that Wooler guy.
Next question.
Did Rich and Brian plan on growing the same beard?
No. His has more gray than mine does, but
Although mine's all under here.
yeah.
I have more hair, though.
Yeah. Jerk.
Okay. Actual PvP question this time. This is another one from Gino Bohm. He's wondering what the general idea was with the Nightblade stamina buffs. He goes on to say that he's concerned that they can now one-shot anybody however they want that is not wearing full heavy.
I mean, burst in general in PvP is something that we want to evaluate and look at. I don't think that Night Blades in particular are any more bursty than they have ever been in the past. I think there's some item sets that kind of make it a little bit easier to do some of those things. Like if you have Veladreth and you charge up a heavy attack and do that opening, then yeah, that can hurt some.
Veladreth and Viper are a big discussion point on the forums too.
But I don't think that's specific. I don't think that's particular to Nightblades in general. But yeah, I mean, just looking at stamina and magicka in general is something we're doing.
Yeah, that's definitely on the future plans of looking at those two and try.
Holy cow!
Somebody just crashed.
We're fine here, we promise. But that is stuff that Eric's going to be looking into. Yep.
World of Tanks is getting a little crazy upstairs.
Apparently.
This question is from Dark Demon 2397. Will there be any new DLC for PvP?
Yes. I mean, it'll be part of DLC. I mean, we've already announced that we're working on Battlegrounds. Yep. So that's something that we're working on.
Right.
Yeah, that was announced, beginning of the year. We said dueling in Battlegrounds, and dueling is going to be in a couple weeks. It's on PTS now.
Yep.
And the other part is coming. Dun, dun, dun.
Don't say it.
Soon TM.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the other one.
I didn't say that one.
All right, we've got one from Solo Serenity. Are we ever going to get small 5v5 ranked competitive PvP and official dueling tournaments?
Official dueling tournaments, no. Because the problem you have with that is that it can get cheesed. Me and Rich can have a discussion of, I'm just going to let you kill me however many times it takes to go up the ladder. And any sort of algorithm we put on the back end of that can be cheesed to figure out how to advance yourselves on those leaderboards. So official dueling like ladders, no, but maybe dueling events like we did with Imperial City, we can do that. We have a semi one with Hammer Death Arena where we opened it up and said, go on in there and fight now. This is a location where you can battle each other.
Yep. And then the smaller group stuff, I mean, that's what Battlegrounds is all about.
Yep.
So
there'll be more information on that when we're ready to talk about that one full bore. So I know the chat's probably going, BGs, oh my God. So
They want to know everything right now.
they want to know it all right
Everything,
now.
all the things. But then we'd have nothing to talk about.
right. And then what if we change our minds on something?
Any from the live audience before we go with more Twitch chat questions?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. This
Atropel
is
wants to.
Gino Bohm promises this is his last one.
I don't believe you.
While he himself loves Sword and Board and PvP, he feels like it is a bit too strong, and just wondering how you feel about that. If you agree, if you disagree, do you have any opinion on it?
Sword and Board in PvP is not bad. I use it on backup bar on my Templar sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
That's because I'm running transmutation.
right. I mean, it depends on your build and what you're trying to do. A lot of the Sword and Boards that I see in PvP, in general, they're there to kind of tank the Zerg. You know, try to get everybody to
Soak the
focus on
damage
that one person while the rest of the group goes off and kills people. And you know, when you see those people in PvP, I mean, I ignore them and I go after all the other juicy targets and then work on the tankier guy earlier, or at the end. In dueling, I mean, I got my butt whooped by a
Sword and Boarder.
By a Sword and Boarder.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think when you see somebody that's, especially when you see a Templar spam shielding with heavy armor and Sword and Board, it's like, all right, yeah, it's just like, okay, well, just ignore that. But that person is only going to win by a war of attrition. If you sit there and decide to engage that individual, you're probably going to lose because you're maybe built for spike damage or burst. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a stronger build, but it's a build that is viable for a certain type of gameplay, for sure. Jess is still scrolling.
Okay. This is from Verbal Duckling.
Oh.
Can you duel in your own alliance in Cyrodiil?
No. Not in Cyrodiil. The reason we didn't allow dueling in Cyrodiil is because of the limitations that dueling puts on combat outside of the duel. So to make it fair, which we know is what everybody would want it to be, we would only want damage and healing to be between the two combatants of a duel. Which would mean in Cyrodiil, if it keeps getting ready to flip, I would challenge Rich, hey, duel me real quick. That way they can't kill us or damage us or anything.
Yep.
So that's why you can't duel in Cyrodiil, because it messes with a three-sided fight, as well as just opens the door for umpteen exploits that would prevent damage from happening the way that it should in a war zone.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to respond to people and take questions. This one is from John B565. He's asked this question
like
a few
the numbers.
times. He's concerned that Magicka is not getting the same support that Stamina is, whereas Stamina is getting a set that targets physical damage in general, but Magicka is only getting shock Destra damage and not Magicka in general, if that made sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
it does.
Kind of a roundabout.
So the question is, are you going to look at that?
Yes.
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 All right, and I've got one.
Yes, we're going to
What
look
more
at
can
it.
I say? Yep,
Correct.
we're gonna look at
yeah,
it.
we've seen the sets and go, yep, that's something to look at.
You recognize that there is a need for
Sure.
Yes.
a parody. Okay. This is from Kong Kim 82.
More
Are you
numbers.
not afraid of battlegrounds taking people away from the grand PvP area that is Cyrodiil and
Cyrodiil.
Imperial
So
City?
this is the discussion that Wheeler and I have had a lot, and
We're on the
Matt
same-
and I have had
Yeah.
a lot of discussions about this as well, and we're all of the same opinion that Battlegrounds is geared more towards the smaller scale, right? It's the smaller scale, smaller group PvP. Cyrodiil is all about the larger scale and sieging keeps
The war,
and
yeah.
it's the war, and so that's the differentiation between the two. So if you really like small scale and that's all you care about, it's okay if you want to go and play the Battlegrounds, right? You get to play, you get to make the choice. As long as you're playing the game, we're happy.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing. Play how you want to play has been sort of like a mantra for ESO for a long time.
Yep.
And we believe that if you want to go Battleground, go ahead and go do that. If you want to play in Cyrodiil, go ahead and do that. Yes, population will come in and out, just like we've seen with Imperial City.
Yeah.
When the population goes into Imperial City, which we've seen a lot of recently with the event, people go out into Cyrodiil and then go, well, they're not defending their keeps, so let's take their stuff. So there's going to be an ebb and flow back and forth, and the balance between rewards is going to be the bigger thing that we are going to be watching closely. And we don't want to have like one portion be so better to level up your character than another. So that's going to be something we're going to be concerned about, just like what we did with Imperial City. It's very much play how you want, but realize if you go play some activity, you may be leaving your keeps undefended. Any questions from in here? Everybody's staring. with
Everybody's
scary
quiet,
eyes, like-
nervous.
It's because it's
afraid to ask
PvP.
questions.
That's what it is.
Hey, Robbie.
Do you have any plans for 15-day Alliance Wars coming back, or any more 7 days, along with our 30 days we've got?
We've been having discussions about the campaigns recently with their population. We may look at either a 7-dayer or a 30-dayer. We are also looking at whether we're going to shut down campaigns or open up more. We really are looking at waiting for one Tamriel population to see how much that brings people back. We know that it's a little strained on PC right now in North America especially, where a lot of people
we're
are
getting
starting to
close
spike out.
to need another campaign
Right.
on North America PC.
And we're not going to announce whether we're doing a 7-dayer or a 30-dayer, but we are looking at that, and well, if there is a need for popping one out after one Tamriel happens, we can easily do so.
7 and 30 are the two most popular. So
Right. 15 was actually the most unpopular, besides the Imperial City gated campaign that we did.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. We've got one here from. Oops.
This poor
This
sap
is
with just one
Ice
sword.
Phoenix 5. Would it be possible to have a trophy system for duels, such as a severed ear after defeating someone in a duel?
That would be fun, sure. But you mean like around your
Ew.
neck? We can add it to maybe the collectible trophy case.
I mean, we're going more along the lines of achievements,
Yeah.
right? You win so many duels, you get an achievement, that kind of thing. I don't know that I want body parts in my inventory.
you don't want to
for beating
Van
somebody
Gogh
in a
ear
duel.
at all. It's possible, but not on the table at
love
this
it.
time.
I don't love it.
Just floppy ear hanging out in your collection.
What would you do with it?
Shouldn't ask that question.
Oh, there's another question from the
Got
audience.
some from the audience, yep.
Non-vet PvP is my favorite. Has it ever been discussed to allow us to turn off XP gains so we don't vet out?
Yep.
Yes,
I
that
get
has
that
been
question a lot.
Yes. That's been discussed. There's no...
There's no plans, but
Yeah.
I get that question a lot. I just
Yeah.
want to turn it off. Okay. We can add it to the list. It's on the list of things that we're talking about, but I
We've
don't
had
know
that
we'll
request
get to it.
in since Blackwater Blade came out.
Yep.
You know. AKA launch.
Here's an interesting one here from Dr. Meister. What do you think of betting items or gold in duels through some type of UI or NPC?
I think that you can do that already with gentlemen's agreements beforehand because it's a social game and you can actually talk to the individual you're
Right.
fighting. And if they welch on you, then you can go around chat and just yell,
Smear their
so-and-so's a
name.
welcher, right.
Yeah.
There will be no official thing for that because a trade is a trade and we messing with that system is pretty hectic. Getting dueling to function was pretty tricky, but also
Yeah.
starting to toss up, a systematic method of putting an item into escrow, for example, just kind of is also rife with put my thing in escrow, disconnect my computer, did it duplicate it, did it not? Like there are all kinds of, there's lots of programmer time dedicated towards that where you could just talk to the individual and saying, I'm going to bet 50 gold that I'm going to beat you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more worried about doing things that are going to let our
system take
I keep
away.
saying our creative players, but those players
Yeah.
that try to bend the rules, try to find exploits things, and doing something along those lines lets them start to bend those lines and do those types of things. So we're just going to keep it at it's a gentleman's agreement. If you want to bet on it, if you want to do it, people already do that now.
Yeah.
Trading items and whatnot, go nuts.
I mean, we know there's going to be different types of duels. We know there's going to be naked duels. We know there's going to be no ultimate duels. We know there's going to be...
Yeah.
You mean naked in game?
Yes, I mean, we know you play that way, but we know there's going to be all kinds of duels like that, and we didn't want to have to force a system on top of that.
Yep.
We're already kind of heavy-handedly forcing, in the next couple PTSs, there'll be, you can't challenge somebody to a duel unless you're both full health. Like, we're already starting to put more restrictions on it.
Yep.
We don't want to put any more that would mean, oh, yeah, I need to change my gear, hold on. I would rather just have it be pretty organic and you talk to each other because it's an MMO. Any other questions from here?
Yes. Any from here? We've got a lot of really good questions coming in from chat, too.
Okay.
Maybe we can take one of those. This is from Naz Dragon Sani. So, play the way you want, air quotes, has been made much more difficult with the removal of soft caps. Players are pigeonholed into specific builds because hybrids aren't viable, or they feel they're not viable. Are there
I
any thoughts
don't
on adding
believe
soft
that.
caps to battle spirits? No. Okay.
So a lot of people think that there's not a lot of differentiation in the builds, and watching people PvP and stream, like everybody kind of gloms onto the builds that some of the more elite players are running, and a lot of times that build works for that player but doesn't work for other players. And I've seen some really crazy creative builds. Blobso is one.
Yep.
He runs them. Jack Daniels runs crazy hybrid type builds that work for them, and so there's that perception of I can only run this build, and this is the only build that works for me, and that's not really true. You just have to play and experiment.
And I've actually seen Cypher actually say that while he was working on builds, he has said, this build works for me. Like I saw him debating and hemming and hawing about Vice Cannon versus Viper. And he was like, well, I really want to do this. And his chat was going, Viper, 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 Viper.
Right.
And he was like, I'm really going to do Vice Cannon. I'm going to give it a shot. And he said, that's how I play. And that's a very important thing to bear in mind. Like, even people that put out guides for this is a cool set, this is the way to use it, but you can use this ability and this armor instead.
It's the
how
same
you
thing
play.
in I know this is a PvP panel, but in PvE, you see a lot of the really high-end guilds when they're running, everybody's like, oh, stamina is overpowered, it's really broken, it's all that other stuff. But you watch, the Hodors and the Beyond Infinities, and they run like 2 stamina characters, 3 stamina characters in their runs, and the rest is all ranged magicka. So, there's a perception thing in there that is difficult to address and to change.
Well, if it was also the fact that stamina is God, how come there's always Nerf Magplar posts all over the place.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not like there is only one way to play. And we truly believe you can play as many ways as you want. It's just a matter of, do you want to take the time to research, to find the ability and the set combinations that fit your style? Or you're just like, okay, well, this is what Allcast is doing, so I'm going to do that today.
I'm seeing shout-outs for Hodor and Beyond Infinity. Those are actually the two teams that are going to be racing in
That's
our
true.
dungeon race.
Right, Mike?
And Mike is going
Ruins
to
of Mazda 2.
commentate
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna
God.
be
It's
gonna be good.
commenting.
in a
So-
polite form.
Right.
Got a lot more questions from chat. So this is actually one that came from our forums that gets asked a lot. Will we ever consider disallowing dueling from the main cities?
That will be in consideration, yes. There's going to be cases where you may see dueling going on like crazy in the middle of where all the auctioneers are, and people are getting annoyed by it. Like, I can see a case where we go, okay, well, in Ralka, we're not going to allow dueling here. It's going to be very much on a case-by-case scenario. If
Yeah, I
we
mean-
start to see that it gets nasty,
Excuse
then
me.
we can.
From my point of view, looking at that, this is kind of a player-driven system, right? And most players, the people that are really going to care about the dueling and whatnot, they don't want anything affecting their frame rate.
Yep.
And they're never going to duel in a city
They're gonna go out in the
because they
wild.
want their frame rate as high as possible. We see people right now dueling in Cyrodiil going into the checkerboard areas because that is the best possible frame rate. They use knockbacks and things
To
like
push
that
through
to
the
get
doors,
through
yes.
the world and through the doors so they can go into these crystal
Clean.
or pristine,
Yeah.
clean areas and duel. So, I don't think maybe there's going to be people that try to troll other people in there and
If it gets
sure,
out of
but-
hand, we have the ability to do so.
yeah, we can
It's
totally
there
look at it,
already.
but right now I would rather just have this be a player-driven system and see what happens.
Okay. We have one here from Not So Zero. What are the ways in which we are currently working on reducing lag in Cyrodiil, specifically on console?
So all of the things that we're working on performance-wise on the back end directly carry over into the consoles. Now we're looking at frame rate improvements on the client, and one of the big things is consoles. Looking at those, we've had a couple of crashes on consoles for memory errors that the programmers have been all hands on deck to fix. So everything we do is with all platforms in mind and not just one.
Right. Yeah, so it's not just, the server is the fix. It trickles down across the board.
All right, we have a general question here about PvP from 88 Epicobra. What is the point of guest and home campaigns?
The point of guessing, damn,
I might have thought this once or twice.
that's a look. What's the point? The point of it, the home campaign that's the one you're associated with in terms of this is where you get the rewards from. That's your home campaign. That's the one you should feel attached to. You actually get rewards for staying in that campaign continuously over and over. The guest campaign is as a solo player, if you have 0 friends and you don't want to go into your home campaign tonight, that Finnegan, my guy, you can still go into at least one other campaign and get a
I
fight.
have a friend.
Yeah, I has a friend. Or in the case of I want to go into Azura Star because I want to see what the non-champion campaign is like. You have 2 campaign options if you are a solo player. That's the point of it. We also wanted to, again, reinforce being on a team, and it's not just being an Aldmeri or Daggerfall or Ebonheart player. It's playing with familiar faces that you see, and that's sort of that reinforcement of we're associated with Hatteras, therefore you're going to see faces that you know in Hatteras. It's
PvP
that
gets a
thing.
lot more interesting when you get to know the people you're fighting. You see that, real big badass guy, and you know the name, you're like, oh shit, I gotta stay away from this guy, or, I'm gonna go get this guy, right? And that's the identity side of things that campaigns bring.
Okay. This one is from Lone Pirate. With all of the new PvE sets, can the gold vendor in Cyrodiil increase the number of gold jewelry items she sells each week?
Gold jewelry items. So we're adding in a bunch of new gold jewelry to her. Off the top of my head, I don't remember how many more we added, but
Phil.
do you remember?
More into the rotation based on the
But she still
files.
sells the same number?
She's selling-
Okay.
There'll be more stuff. There'll be a bigger variety of stuff going into it. Phil's answer is there's going to be a better variety of rings going in there, but it'll still be the same amount of rings.
Yep.
And necklaces.
This is from JB Mafaka.
Oh! She was waiting to say that one all day.
She's like, I don't know what he's asking, but I'm going to say his name.
Anyway, do you have any plans to add more places like the latest dueling spot from PTS?
Are there more plans to add
So
other
Hammer
places?
Death?
Yeah, like Hammer Death.
I think that's something that we're looking at all the time. You know, one of the big bits of feedback
Oops.
that we get a lot from our role-play community is open up more areas that we can have role-playing events in. So it's something that the team is consciously thinking about. So I think we'll see more of those things, but I can't think of any off the top of my head that we're planning on opening anytime soon.
It's always an option that the world builders can add that if they... Oh no, you can't add dueling areas. No, don't do that.
Yes, we can. We did.
Yeah, exactly.
This is from Ridrek. Can you guys look into a hero or champion system where the Alliance, without an Emperor, has a character each that has a percentage of the power of Emperor buffs? Sorry.
So like
that
a-
makes sense.
Participation
If-
trophy?
if-
It's like a jester.
Yep. So if you've had
I mean,
an
I don't mean to be
emperor-
rude about that, but
Well, that question could probably maybe be cleared up a little bit. Is that if you've had an emperor in the past and you have an emperor on your team, you get a percentage of the emperor bonus?
Yeah, maybe we can get
like
into
former
flashback.
emperors get a bonus kind of
If
thing?
you have an emperor on your team, I think that's maybe what they're saying. Like if I was a former emperor and you're currently emperor and we're both on blue, I get a bit of a bonus and you get the full bonus. Is that kind of what he's asking? I think.
I mean, I really like the emperor style, right? Where I'm the emperor, I need to be online, and I make my alliance that much better. Like, that feels really good.
Oh, you avoid him like the plague, or her like the
Or,
plague.
yeah. And I don't know that I love the idea of I'm not the emperor, but I still get a buff for participating.
Because you have an emperor on your
Because
team.
you have an emperor, or because
already
I was
get
a
the
former
emperor
emperor,
buff.
right?
You already
Like,
get an emperor
If you want
buff
the
as
emperor
is.
buff,
Yeah.
go get emperor and hold it, right? Like, that's the way I look at it.
Okay, this is from these names. G Dizzle.
G Dizzle.
Can we expect a buff to light armor to help combat the tankiness of heavy? Maybe a spell penetration buff.
I don't know. Maybe. It's something we can talk about. I think light armor is pretty frickin' good, though. Like, just in terms of sustain.
The regen
and
is good.
The regen and a lot of the magicka defenses that you get out of it. So if we make it spell penetration as well, then there's no reason to use any other armor. Like, that was one of the things we had when we did our latest revamp of armor in general, is you could hit the armor cap, the mitigation cap in light armor, so there was no reason to wear any other armor. We don't want to return to that.
Okay, more questions. There's lots of really good questions in chat.
Good.
They call me aces. Since Impen has been taken off the PvE trial table, is there a plan for the PvP vendor, to sell more than one set per week so we don't have to wait years to get the best in slot gear?
Is Golden going to have more stuff?
Didn't we already answer that earlier?
Well, you
Phil-
answered,
Phil's
answered
doing
the
this.
jewelry
Phil's shaking
question.
his head no, but I don't think so. I mean, that's one of the things that we'll watch and monitor, but right now we don't have any plans.
Okay, here's a similar question from Game On 99. Will the new sets and the updated sets come in the impenetrable trait for us PvPers?
Depends on where they're sourced.
Okay.
I
Do we
got
have
an
any
Impen
questions from
helmet
live
yesterday
audience?
on
I
PT.
feel like I'm monopolizing with Twitch chat.
I mean, yeah, I ran a dungeon yesterday on PTS, and I got an Impen helmet in a dungeon.
Okay, there's a question that Warlord Kyle has been
Warlord.
asking for a good 15 minutes now.
Uh-oh.
Will y'all
Well,
Y'all.
got it.
ever add a greater draw distance for grass or better options for anti-aliasing?
Greater
Oh, he's
draw
not there.
distance, a greater draw distance for grass and things like that. A lot of that comes down to client performance and client settings. Maybe. I can't think of anything. Like right now, we're working more on optimizations than
Then bonuses.
than
yeah.
adding new features. But the graphics team is always looking at what they can add and what new fancy tech they can play with. So
Maybe.
Okay. This is from Sneaky Mitchell. Will there be any crafted sets in Cyrodiil, and
any new crafted sets?
yeah, will there be any new crafted sets in Cyrodiil like in Imperial City?
Oh, like you can get armor crafted specifically sets in Imperial City. Will there be sets that you can craft out in Cyrodiil? Maybe.
I mean, that's a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm. We've brought it up in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've brought it up. We thought about anchoring that actually to towns recently, but chose not to for the time being because of all the itemization changes coming in Tamriel. So it's not to say we can't do it.
It's a good idea, though.
Yep.
I feel like we've answered this one before, but I'm sorry. It's scrolling fast. This is from John B565. So for consoles, will there ever be a program to show a timer for your dots and buffs like on PC?
Buff tracker? Yeah, we talked about that earlier, and that's one of the things that's in the works.
Okay. So John, it's in the works.
Can you get any of the upcoming festival stuff in PvP?
Festival stuff?
No. So the event, a lot of those festivals and events, they take place in certain areas in outside of Cyrodiil.
Technically, there are some bosses in the Cyrodiil delves that could drop some of
Sure.
the event stuff.
Now you're giving the event away.
Oh.
But you can't kill
Spoiler!
players.
Yeah,
You
to get
can't
the
kill
gear.
players in particular in order to get the event stuff.
With the monsters in Cyrodiil getting raised to CP 160, is there anything else being done to make a good risk-reward trade-off for people trying to gain champion ranks in the PvP area?
I mean, you're going to get champion points faster, but there's
a bonus actually in
there's a
Cyrodiil
hidden
to all the
modifier.
XP you earn just because it's inherently more dangerous.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's staying.
Yeah, that's staying.
Yeah, there's still that,
So you'll still get that bonus.
extra in Imperial City as well as Cyrodiil. The zones have a modifier that give you more.
And the Cyrodiil delves as
Yes,
well.
and the
They
delves.
They
Yep.
have an increase.
In any PvP space. Well, except when you're dueling, that doesn't count. That's a temporary PvP space.
Oh, you get increased XP in Hammer Death.
Lies.
There's no mobs. So.
What a
Someone had a
troll.
question back
Tatiana
here.
was right.
I think. Was it you? Okay. This might be a question for Phil. I can come over and give you the mic if you want. Are there any plans to buff the apple spawn rate at the Chalman Apple Orchard for the hardcore provisioners? It's very specific.
There's an orchard near Chalm that has apples.
Okay. I didn't know there was a problem with
I
it.
didn't know that.
No, there's not a problem. They just wanted it to be
I'm just
increased.
wondering if we might consider buffing the spawn rate.
I have no problem with it, Phil. Sure.
We can take a look at it. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't want there to be a one-stop shop to just get infinite, of anything.
Right.
So we'd have to look at
Wow, that's a good question.
But
Wasn't
I mean,
expecting that.
it does have the possibility of causing a fight if you know that's where you go to get apples.
To get apples.
You never know. If you come out with a recipe that is a super purple amazing food and it requires apples, then
Apple dueling confirmed.
apple fights just.
Any from the live audience here? Okay, more from chat. This is from Lenny Boy 04. Can you implement an Imperial City sewer entrance from the Alliance home location so we don't have to travel long distances in one-side
Hey,
controlled locations?
that must be a Phil question.
We actually talked about that this past week, but not necessarily a sewer entry, but a way shrine in Imperial sewers in your Alliance home location. So to skip the run across the Cyrodiil if you don't own the map.
Take the map back. That's why I look at it.
Yeah, there are definitely both sides of the argument.
Rich says
Besides,
get
go
good.
take the map.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point, the original intent behind Imperial City was that you would kind of have to unlock it, and we've
Gone away from that.
gone away from that, and
But-
I actually really like the idea of it's easier to get to Imperial City if you have a keep near one of the entrances, and I like that, and yeah, it sucks when you jump into a campaign and it's all red. You're like, well, shit, now I got to run there, but
Ooh. First
Do
one
your
of the
thing.
day.
No, I've said that a few times.
Oh, well, hell that. But we are, to devil's advocate, we've actually discussed the benefit, like Phil has brought up, just being able to hop right into Imperial City. We see both sides of these discussions of, hey, I bought this DLC, I want to go to it just like Hughesbane, just like Gold Coast and Orsinium. So it's not foreign to us to have that discussion, but like Rich said, we believe in the benefit of going back, recapturing keeps, and getting into Imperial City that way. Or trucking across Cyrodiil, because then that is foot traffic and gives other people a chance to
Gank
Opportunity to kill you.
Shut up! Yes, that. Yeah.
All right, so we have about 10 minutes left. So if you guys have questions in the live audience, definitely raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going with questions from chat. I've got about 6 or 7 more that I've got copied over to go through.
Sure.
Fire away.
This is from The Code in Zombie.
Oh, zombies.
This should be a game, just reading people's names from chat. Can you make it so that if you're not using all of your champion points, it will say how many you're using as your level?
Instead of showing your max
Yeah, I mean,
level.
that's something that Bobby and I have talked about a few times. I kind of go both ways. You know, there's a troll opportunity in there. You know, a lot of people.
One.
Well, a lot of people right now, what they'll do is they'll set their title like volunteer. So that's like rank 1. And so, you know, if you're wandering around Cyrodiil and they're, you know, somebody that's not necessarily super familiar with that tactic will be like, oh, volunteer, I'm going to get them. And then wham,
But
they're
they
dead,
didn't look
right?
at your icon.
Yeah, they didn't look at your icon. Things like, yeah, there's people like, yeah, I do that. So, you know, those are the kinds of things we think about when we do those. Maybe.
It gets back to that discussion of how much of a benefit is it versus how big of a troll opportunity is there.
Yep.
Okay. This is from Jamie Aubrey again. Will we ever get a buff for low speed mounts when you enter Cyrodiil so it's at max speed?
He said no very quietly. No. No.
I mean, that
You
kind
can say it more
of.
fiercely. No.
Well, that goes directly against kind of how the mount system works, right? Like one of the things that you have to kind of manage as a player is how often do I feed my mount? What order do I feed my mount in?
As soon as possible.
Right, and you know the right play is to log in every day and feed your mount every day, right? So, and there's riding lessons as well. But for the player that doesn't want to purchase things in the Crown Store, they can still build their mount up. It'll just take a little longer.
I mean, we get the pain of, you know, oh my God, I got to drive across Cyrodiil on my horse, but it was built that big to allow for a break in action. It was built so if we do take the keep, then there's a minute where we're maybe not going to get railed on right away. I mean, forward camps kind of take that away a little bit, but there is that pause of action.
That's something that we forgot to mention in the tips and tricks.
Forward camps
Is
get
for
one.
the love of God, please drop forward camps. Like there are so many people that don't use them, and they are strategically. Yes, that was the comment. But like, there's a lot of people that don't know how amazingly powerful forward camps are.
Yes.
And they very, very rarely ever get dropped.
They also cost a lot.
Sure,
Yeah.
but you know they can turn the tide in a fight. So use them.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I've got a question here that's being asked by Corner 7 and Chimney Swift, so I feel like they're working together to get an answer. Since PvPers have a vendor to buy PvE gear with a currency, are there any plans to add, say, a VMA vendor for those who can complete VMA to buy a random rotating VMA weapon drop with a VMA acquired currency?
Nope.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I want you to do the content.
Okay.
All right.
I feel their pain. I run VMA
And
every
you
day.
curse a lot, too.
and I cuss a lot. At that effort right there.
I don't know why I get the hate.
I've seen this question come up from a couple people too. Sigtrick just bumped
Oh,
it.
bud.
Are there any plans for new siege engines or weapons like siege ladders or towers?
So there are plans for new weapons, but things that actually adjust physics or are player-placed physics would make our lead programmer punch me dead in the kidneys. So
Well, then you get the troll opportunities.
Exactly.
You know, like there's lots of those. You know, it's maybe
why
this
the
is a
Rams don't
developer
have
story,
collision.
right? But
Yeah.
right, but when we introduced the Jubilee cake, as part of the yearly event.
Yeah.
One of the things that we started seeing is in Aetherian Archive, when you kill the mage at the end and there's the portal that drops, and you use that to get through, well, there's some jackasses that drop the Jubilee cake over top of the portal, and then you can't click on the portal to get out. They'll also do that at the beginning of the raid. 3, 2, 1, go through the door. Well, they drop the Jubilee cake on the door, and you can't click on the door, and you're stuck. So,
right. This is why...
Those are the things we have to think about when we're implementing new features and
This is
new
why we
things.
can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things. This is why that rope bridge
Because
from the
players
video
are
never
jackasses
existed.
like me who like to troll people. So
Yeah, there are new siege weapons being discussed, and there's
Yep.
one on the back burner. When it's ready, we'll
called the
actually
Jubilee
talk about
cake?
it. It's called the Jubilee cake, yeah. But again, things like ladders or, that ladder that shot out in the video, no.
which is amazing, but
It's beautiful, but yeah, we can't do things that alter physics like that.
Okay, I'm going to read off one or two more, and then we've got to get switched out for our next panel. This one's from Ceratopia. Any plans to remove the need to slot abilities like bound armor on both bars in order to keep the effect up when you switch weapons?
so they want more than 5 abilities to be active on their bar at once.
I think this is just related to when you switch
Like
and have
Mage
it
Light.
and have it
Why
on
can't I have
both.
Mage Light on one bar and have it work for me entirely across both bars?
Right.
So I can have more than 5 abilities.
Uh-huh.
No.
Okay, there you go.
It's a choice. It's
That's a
player
trade-off,
choice,
yeah, it's a
right?
trade-off.
Like, those are powerful buffs. And so if you can only have one of them active on a bar and have extra, our game is built around 6 abilities that you haven't played any time. Well, I guess technically 12 if you swap bars around,
Yeah.
but if we keep adding more and more, then it blows out what our original intent.
Any plans to add, I forgot who asked this, I'm sorry. Any plans to add a range buff to bows? Like
To make them
the
shoot
range
even further?
longer.
To make them hit harder than they already do?
Farther.
Farther?
Whoa! They can already hit really far if you have reach, as well as using snipe.
I think those faces
And you
sum up
have
the
battle
answer.
spirit.
I mean, they're
They
pretty
hit really
powerful
far,
already,
yeah.
especially in PvP. If you get sniped from, stealth, it hurts.
Yeah, you can already shoot really far, and that kind of pushes back a little bit with how far our server can detect another player for another player. We're getting near that boundary.
Sure, but I'm
As
just,
is.
from a player point of view,
Oh, yeah.
if somebody can shoot me from halfway across the map, I'm going to be
If
pissed.
they can shoot from halfway across Cyrodiil, that's impressive. But
Okay, last one.
It's
'cause
pretty.
this is
It's pretty far as is, and I don't think it's going to get further.
We've got one live, I think. Or no?
No, he was
Okay.
just,
He's
just
he was just
stretching.
talking about shooting a bow.
Okay. Last one, because this is a really good one. From Galadrond, are there any plans to add synergies to siege weapons?
There have been plans for that, yes, but it is not an easy thing to do. The way that they work, the origination of the damage being anchored on the siege weapon and then fired off, the server has to make another thing that has to be triggered, and having another siege weapon recognize that is not very easy to do. It's something that we would like to add, but it's not a very easy thing to add.
We experimented with siege weapon synergies, I guess, when we
Yes.
started talking about new
Yeah.
siege weapons. So it's not a concept that we haven't thought about, but it's also not something that's easily done.
No, it's very difficult. As silly as it sounds, where I can fire an oil pot and then shoot a flame ballista, how come it doesn't turn into a huge flaming pile of hell? It's
Like you're gonna,
it's not easy to do. It sounds easy, but it's
right.
not. But we have talked about it.
Okay. So I think that wraps things up. We have to
Uh-oh.
switch over for our next panel. Thank you guys so much.
You can
Thank
Sure thing.
talk to you.
Oh, did you
offline.
have a question?
I'll just ask something.
Okay. All right. So thank you all for joining us from the live audience and all of you from Twitch. We will be right back with our Creating ESO development stories, where some of our developers are going to come up on stage and
give you
tell
a
their
sneak
stories,
peek.
some of which are going to be fun about
Only some of them are fun.
just some about developing the Elder Scrolls Online. So we'll be right back.